Every party member in here has a very specific reason for being in the party. Our heaviest damage dealer, believe it or not, is actually our thief. In Final Fantasy, speed works a little differently than in later games in the series. Speed affects your ability to run, but it also gives us the ability to, it causes you to get more attacks per round. Every character, every enemy, every hero gets one turn per round. So instead of having more turns like an after time battle system, you get more attacks in on a turn. With the equipment glitch, we're going to be able to give a very overpowered weapon to our characters that will make strength differences between them, the warrior and the thief, not matter as much as the speed difference between them. Usually the warrior is more powerful because he's stronger and can equip stronger weapon, but with the same weapon and the higher speed, thief is actually going to be our main damage dealer. Our warrior exists mostly because he can equip items that we can use to initiate the equipment glitch to get that weapon. So he's in the party basically for one menu in the game. There's a few other times he's handy too, menuing, but there's one in particular that we have to have him. Otherwise, we would have to get that Barbarian Sword much later in the run. The Black Mage is in the run, both for the teleport spell, but more importantly for the haste spell, which doubles your speed, which doubles your attack power. In the late game, we will need that in order to defeat the final boss. And the White Mage in the party, strictly so we can defeat the final boss. White Mage will be healing the party every. We'll be using all the party members for different reasons throughout the run, but those are the reasons they're in the party. The ninja is also capable of learning a haste spell, and in other categories in the game, like all bosses or full bestiary, we actually will have 2 ninjas instead of a black wizard. But we will not be getting our thief/ninja to a high enough level to be using the haste spell, so we will be having a black mage in the party. Our characters are going to be fairly low level throughout this run. And the SRL race has just started, so give us a second for the stream to catch up, and we'll be on our way. And we are off. So the first thing we're going to be doing is going and buying a hammer. The hammer weapon ID is the same as the Knight's Armor's armor ID. For the equipment glitch, we will be using that to create some free Knight's Armors. We're going to be creating 5 sets of Knight's Armor. 1 for each of our characters, and 1 more just to sell. We'll be selling the rest later, because the Knight's Armor is very valuable armor. And we're going to be virtually immune to physical attacks for the beginning of the run, unless they are critical attack. Critical attacks ignore defense, so critical attacks are something we have to worry about, but for the most part, we're only getting 1 or 2 hit points of damage from physical attacks, and that's for a lot of the run. And we're using that Knight's Armor that we sold right here on Starcrawl's screen to buy items. Roach did not see him buy items. I might have missed it, or he might be purchasing the items in Provoca. We're buying potions, antidotes, and phoenix downs. We're also going to need at some point to get ethers and gold needles. As I was saying earlier, the RNG of encounters is something that has a large effect on this run. So they're both going to work their way up to the Chaos Shrine. Starcrawl taking a little unconventional route there. Look, he might have been on autopilot toward the bridge that doesn't exist yet. And we will be seeing lots of random encounters in this run. I keep a random encounter timer on my random encounter counter on my live split, and the last race I had about 188 encounters throughout the run. So we're gonna get a lot of them. Roach here picked up a leather hat, has a defense of 1, and can be glitched into the Judgement Staff. The Judgement Staff is a staff you usually get in one of the bonus dungeons that's kind of meant to be completed a little later post-game content. It's extremely powerful as a magic item, and actually is stronger than any physical item we can get at this point in the game, any sword or anything, because it's for such a late-game item. So at the beginning of the run, up through our second major boss fight, we will be using the Judgement Staff as our main attack item on all our characters. And there's something else special it can do that we're going to be seeing on the pirate battle. The actual average number of encounters, somewhere we have a spreadsheet where we were putting in our encounter counts after we finished runs a year ago. I don't know if that's been kept up, but 175 to 200, maybe low 200s, seems to be fairly typical. More important than the number of encounters you get is the quality of the encounter. Some encounters cannot be run from, and you just have to know which encounters those are, because there is no prompt that says you can't run. There also are ambushes and enemies that have long spell cast and large groups of enemies. But if you get a bunch of preemptives, you're fine because you can just keep running. So quality of encounter, like a bad encounter, can cost you 30, 40 seconds or even more, whereas you might only spend 2 or 3 seconds on a fasting. The encounters can make a very large difference in time. It is, in fact, the biggest factor in times for this game between a lot of races. I mean, you have people who have, PBs, under an hour and a half, who might get really, really bad encounters and have, an hour 40-minute race if it's a really bad one. There also are a few really rough boss battle RNG possibilities. The first fiend we fight does have the opportunity, if he decides to one-shot kill the entire party with nothing we can do about it. So getting to this bridge under 5 minutes is pretty okay. It looks like they're still very, very close in time. As we walk along, we're going to kind of aim these Marsh Tiles a little bit if we can. Marsh Tiles actually have some of the lowest encounter rates in the overworld, and the Forest Tiles have extremely high encounter rates, and just the regular plains are pretty high as well. So what type of tile you walk on does make an effect. Talia, it can make it feel like a bad game to race. It can also make it a great game to race, because a fairly new runner can be running against a world record holder and still have a chance. So it's a very, very beginner-friendly game, and those of us who've been playing it for years, we still enjoy racing it. Sometimes, we want to kick a chair, but for the most part, here to have. So we have some very good sync coming in here to Provoca. And we're going to be doing the pirate battle here. And usually, on most versions of this game, this takes, about 3 turns to complete. But we have the Judgement Staff, which allows us to cast Flare, the most powerful spell in the game, for free anytime we want throughout the game. It's the same spell that was called Nuke in the original version of the game. And you're still going to try to use it as little as possible, because it has an 8-second animation time. So we will be trying to minimize use of that spell. But we can do it whenever we want. I guess you could say in some ways this can be the Mario Kart of RPGs, yes. There is still execution, and on average, the more experienced player, the better execution, on average, will prevail, but it's not a guarantee. And the races are never over until chaos is down. We love and hate traveling in the What we love about it is it moves very quickly and you have a low encounter rate. What we hate about it is some of the encounters you can get are pretty rough. Alright, Roach is coming in here to Elfheim early to pick up some gold needles. You never want to forget to pick up these gold needles. Anyone who does that, really needs to learn the game a little bit better. And I totally didn't do that just about an hour and a half ago in my... and that actually ended up costing me. I ended up having a petrification that I had to leave the Ninja petrified for an extended period while I did some other things before I could come back and get the gold needles. So at the beginning of the game here, we are doing a very, very large fetch quest. Our goal at the beginning of the game is to get the boat west into the main game world. We're in kind of a little contained area of water. In order to do that, we need to blow up an earthen dam, some dwarves. To do that, they're going to need some Nitro Powder. The Nitro Powder is locked in a chest behind an item called the Mystic Key. The Mystic Key is held by an elf prince who's in a coma and needs a jolt tonic to be woken up. To get that jolt tonic, you have to get it from the witch Matoya, who needs her crystal eye in order to be able to give it to you. To get the crystal eye, you have to retrieve it off of the dark elf prince, Astos. And in order for Astos to reveal himself to fight you, you have to give him the crown. Crown is what we are trying to get in this dungeon. I'm having audio issues. Give me one moment. Okay, is that sounding any better to everybody? Go ahead and let me know on that. Right. So while I was away, we fought the Pisco Demons. It is our first spike tile encounter. We use the Judgement Staff to defeat them typically. It can be a scary battle. They have a high critical hit rate, and they hit like trucks. And there is a slight chance of them having 4 of them hit 4 critical attacks and wiping out your entire party. Speaking of attacks, the order in which our characters are laid out is important for 2 reasons. One is we arrange them so we can do the equipment glitch properly, and we will be swapping some characters later on the run to do some more glitching. But also important is your top party member will receive 50% of attacks. The party member in the second slot will receive 25% of attacks, and the party members in the third and fourth slot will be receiving each 12.5% of the attacks. So we're putting our highest defense character in the first slot, and our soft, squishy mages in the third and fourth slot. But interestingly, our white mage is not actually going to be that squishy. She typically is going to have some of the higher hit points by the end of the game. Our hit points and many other stats do increase randomly per level. You have some different rolls to determine your character's progression. And that's going to matter a whole lot in the final battle because we have to worry about our thief and our black mage having enough hit points to survive the battle. Okay, it's good to hear that the sound is better. So here at the Astos fight, we're going to have our 2 physical characters attack, and our mages use the Judgement Staff. Both of them got lucky not having death cast on any of the characters. Astus has a very high chance the first round of casting death, and you especially do not want the death spell to hit either of your mages. The mages will be grinding later and having to get some spells, and we will want to have as much experience possible going into that battle, and probably more importantly, if they are both the same level, which means neither of them have ever died, they've both been in every battle that received experience, then we can better keep count of what level they're at, instead of having to go into the menu over and over and over to see what level they're at during the grind. If you know, if there's that really fast level up screen goes by while you're just holding down the A button, you can look and see that your characters have leveled together, because they will only level at the same time. So just count the number of times you see that prompt. While Starcrawl may appear ahead and objectively be ahead right now, the lead he has means absolutely nothing at this point in the game. Alright, so now that we have that Crystal Eye from Astos, we are going up to visit Matoya's cave. Gonna scoot under the bridge here and come visit the witch. She's a very friendly witch. She has some brooms that we do not like, though, simply because they can get in your way. It's minor time loss walking around a broom, but it can be it's one of those little frustrating things that happens. Yeah, Roach is having a little trouble with the random encounters. But he's executing very well, so we will see what happens next. Yeah, as Portside said, the Earth Cave and Ice Cave are some of the great equalizers. The Chaos Shrine, Mirage Tower, basically anywhere with encounters can turn things against you. Or give you a great time. So Starcrawl is now heading back to Elfheim. We'll be visiting the Elf Castle to visit the Elf Prince and wake him up. That lone shark encounter Starcrawl just had can be frustrating sometimes. Sometimes it's just very difficult to run from. But pretty soon we're going to start having more success running with our next equipment glitch. No Tundra, there's no step counter in this game. Encounters are determined by random rolls that I believe are frame-based, along with a threat counter. So basically, every step you take that you don't have a battle, your threat level increases, and it acts as a multiplier on your random encounter rolls. So the longer you go without getting an encounter, the higher odds of getting an encounter. But with that random roll also in there, you could have 2 encounters 2 steps in a row. So Starcrawl is walking the Elvin Council here. He's going to come to the left side over here to wake up the prince, and then he needs to get something from the far right side of the castle. But instead of walking to the right side of the castle, he's actually going to leave the castle out the left side and come back in. It's just a little faster than walking across the castle and through the corridors. And Roach is just about caught up there just from a little bit of encounter luck there. So Starcrawl is on his way up right now to pick up the Mithril Hammer. The Mithril Hammer can be used to create an item called the Thief's Armlet. The Thief's Armlet gives a boost to agility, which allows us to more easily run from battles and get earlier turn orders. It also will increase the attack power of our physical attackers because they will have potentially getting more hits in per turn. Now Starcrawl is coming to get his gold needles while Roach finishes up his item menu, so these runners are very, very close, but looks like Roach has pulled out a slight lead. Now that we have the Mystic Key, we are heading back to our starting castle that we've now visited twice. We're going to visit for the third and final time to pick up the Nitro Powder. And depending on the runner's preference, they may also be picking up a Mithril Knife. The Mithril Knife can be used to create some black roads to cast Blazara later in the run for certain random encounters. Blazara, while weaker generally than Flare, has a much faster animation time. And it looks like Roach is going to opt to just stick with the Judgement Staff as a Starcrawl. It's not very surprising. For the longest time, there was only one runner that frequently got the Mithril Knife. It is it's a newer addition to the route for most runners, and many of us have just now started getting back into the game for this tournament after taking a long break. The first Total Chaos tournament 2 years ago and the second Total Chaos tournament actually had very minor route changes between them. In the last, toward the end of the last tournament, what we call the Lust Dagger route was developed that gets you a little better average times typically, but does not affect much on PB grinding. At least for me personally, it hasn't. But what we've developed a few other routes. There's the Black Mage Magic route, which is very different for many of the players, and there's about 3 or 4 different commonly used routes at this point. So in the last year, there's been a lot of development in this game, and a lot of the players who mostly run during the tournament are kind of having to adapt to new routes, and some just don't have it ready yet and are sticking with the old route, which still works great. As Portside said, it is not fashionable, it's fast. And it is interesting that wearing armor on your head, hands, and body, and later on also as a shield, allows you to run faster, but somehow it does. That's the magic of magic. Right. Now that we have opened up this canal, we can get into the western part of the world and start approaching the main quest, which is to defeat the 4 fiends of earth, fire, water, and air. In that order, most likely. Roach here getting trolled by an ambush from wolves. Wolves are some of our least favorite encounters early on because they are fast, typically get a lot of turns in, are hard to run from, and if they ambush you, there's lots of them. Anytime you are ambushed, the other side gets a full round of turns before you get any turns. So if you have a really fast group of enemies, you could potentially have all the enemies get 2 turns in before you get your first. Roach is here in Melman doing the most important menu of the game. It's getting the steel gloves to get the Barbarian Sword. The Barbarian Sword is difficult to overstate how powerful this weapon is. It can usually only be received by defeating the hardest version of the hardest post-game kind of super boss. So basically, by the time you can usually get the Barbarian Sword, you don't need it because you can defeat any battle in the game. But the Barbarian Sword has extreme attack power. It is actually triple the power of the old Excalibur that used to be one of the ultimate weapons in Final Fantasy I, because it has extremely high attack rate and also gives a bonus to strength, which is one of the reasons that the thief ends up being more powerful than the warrior, because of that strength boost kind of equalizes them. So now Roach is coming down to fight the vampire in the Cavern of Earth. So we had that big fetch quest earlier, and lucky for us, now we have another fetch quest. Now, Starcrawl is on the 3rd floor of the Cavern of Earth. This floor is the first floor in the game which we can run into unrunnable random encounters. That's the Pisco Demons. Also, the first time we can run into cockatrices. Cockatrices have the ability to petrify the party. If you get an ambush from them and they petrify the entire party, it can end the game for you. So lots of us, in races especially, like to save before this floor. So Roach and Starcrawl, well, Roach is getting the Pisco Demons right now, so as I said, that's an unrunnable encounter. He's choosing to attack all 4 of them, just because it'll take him a minute to menu to get the Judgement Staffs ready, so he's just going to try to attack them to kill them all. If you notice, the attacks from these characters are absurdly high. Starcrawl is fighting a boss here, and in just a moment he's going to be fighting the vampire, and we'll see how long it takes to defeat this boss. And there we go, we're one-hitting that boss. So, you're now picking up the Star Ruby. The Star Ruby is an item we need to give to a giant so that we can access another cave to get to the Earth Rod, which we need to open the door behind the vampire. So we get to see these first 3 floors of the Earth Shrine. We get to walk through them 3 times. We actually only see the 3rd floor twice, but we had to walk across it and back. So. And Roach getting petrification on his white mage here and had trouble running. He's decided he's going to try to run again. Okay. So now he needs to use one of those gold needles. That's why we pick him up. Hopefully you never need the gold needles, but if you do, we basically have no other options, because you can't even let a petrified character be killed. Petrified character receive no experience and obviously cannot contribute toward the battle. So petrification is actually worse than death in this game. Starcrawl having his own cockatrice encounter. And manages to escape. So Roach is out of the Earth Cave and working his way toward the Giant's Cave. Starcrawl getting a lot of poison here. That's frustrating. Gotta do a lot of menuing here, and depending on how many antidotes he picked up at the beginning, oh, he got plenty. He got 21. Some people only pick up 11, so you have to worry. When we start getting 3, 4 characters in one battle poisoned, it can get a little frustrating. Some of you may notice whenever we do some healing, at this point in the game, the warrior and the thief are not being healed very high. The reason is we do need them to die later in the run for a grind fight for our mages. And so we're going to keep them both at fairly low hit points. We want to keep them under about 70, 80 hit points. So until they get below about 20 or so, we're not going to be using any potions on them. So far, this race is turning out great because we have had the race going back and forth, because while randomness is a large part of this game, you know, the game giveth and taketh away. So you'll have one racer will have pretty good luck in one section, and the next will have pretty good luck in the other. It goes back and forth, and it can be very entertaining. So Roach has picked up the Earth Rod. While Starcrawl's working his way down there, Starcrawl just had a little worse luck getting to the Giant's Cave. These shadows that Roach is fighting are interesting. In the original game, they were bugged out to almost always have an ambush on you. They fixed the bug in this game, but they put their own bug in it. Now they have a 1 in 8 chance of ambushing you and a 7 in 8 chance of giving you a preemptive. You cannot get a normal battle from them. So normally we love running into them because we can run away instantly. But when they do ambush us, it's extra frustrating. So both getting a lot of preemptives right now, which is nice. Starcrawl is closing that gap that he had that was much larger earlier very quickly. Oh, and Roach got that rare Shadow Ambush. So Starcrawl's back in the league. So both runners now walking through familiar territory. Starcrawl getting a large group of whites and gas here, that can be frightening because they do have paralysis tied in with their attacks. You can see the warrior getting paralyzed there. If all 4 party members get paralyzed, you do not instantly lose the battle, but it can take a very long time for a party member to get out of paralysis. We call it being paralocked. And you can lose minutes to a paralock, and potentially you may not ever get out. Your characters may just keep getting reparalyzed and reparalyzed, and you know, death by 1,000 cuts, quite literally. If you think the encounter rates are bad now, wait until we get to the Waterfall Cave and the Mirage Tower. Roach doing a good job with that save. That's correct, Parsythe. And Starcrawl getting a lot of these undead encounters. Roach has now passed up the vampire's room. He's using the earth rod to go deeper into the dungeon. Starcrawl's looking scary right now. He's going to go ahead and Judgement Staff it. That's a good call. The mage is not great at running. Just one-shot all of them and get out of that battle. Okay, Roach is now on the 5th floor of the Cavern of Earth. This we're going to fight Lich, the first of our four fiends, and we like to save for this battle. One nice thing, since the PSP was a mobile system, they did give you the ability to save anywhere in the game, so we can save right before the battle, which is good because Lich has a chance in the first round of casting Blizzara. If he does, your entire party will die. There is nothing you can do to prevent it. So it's always a good idea to save before Lich. But it proved unnecessary for Lich, because with 2 hits, typically for the Barbarian Sword from your party members, you can take out Lich. Starcrawl got a large group of enemies, but was fortunate to get a preemptive there. After each of the 4 fiends defeated, we will be seeing medium-length cutscenes. It's a good time to mash your controller really quickly and hope it ends, but it's also a good little breather. Both runners having fairly good runs so far. No major issues. Now as Roach and Starcrawl head to Crescent Lake, we're going to see if either of them chooses to use the Lust Dagger strat that a lot of the players are doing these days. And Starcrawl being heroic and removing that cursor from the screen. Mouse cursor placement is very important for our RNG manipulation, if you did not know. So you see a lot of blue here in the water as we're sailing. We have a few indicators we can use to tell where we are in the world based on when we pass certain landmarks. But getting lost in the sea or even in the airship over the water can be very frustrating because a lot of the world map is just a big blue nothing. There is a world map accessible through a controller shortcut. I believe it is the start and select buttons at the same time. I have not used it in over a year. Starcrawl with an unfortunate paralock, though. So we'll see how much time Starcrawl loses to this. Hopefully he does get out of it. First character available probably needs to just go ahead and use the Judgement Staff. While Roach enters Crescent Lake, gonna pick up some ethers and sell his knight's armors. Starcrawl gets off the Judgement Staff. That's good. So Roach does pick up the Mithril Glove, so we'll be getting the Lust Dagger. The black guard we're putting on our character right now is an even better agility boost than the Thief's Armlet, as does the Lust Dagger we're going to be equipping on our mages. So Roach is talking to one of the sages here, who's going to be giving us the canoe we need to access the next part of the game. You do need to defeat Lich before you can receive this canoe. If that were not the case, we would actually be coming here much earlier in the game. So Roach went ahead and took this little minor time save to do. When in that shallow water, you can use the canoe. He took one step up as well as going right, simply because the forest tile has a high encounter rate and the shallow water has a very low encounter rate. Just doing as many of the steps, same number of steps, you might as well take those steps in the lower encounter areas. And that Paralock was very frustrating for Starcrawl, but Starcrawl still has it's a long way to go before that's a problem. And Starcrawl looks to be skipping the Black Garb, hoping for good run luck to make up for that time loss to that Paralock. Roach working his way to the Cavern of Ice. Now, this is not the intended route. You're expected at this point in the game to go fight Merilith, the Fiend of Fire. But since we have such overpowered equipment, we're going to go visit the Cavern of Ice first to try to get our airship early. That being said, this Cavern of Ice is probably the most dangerous area of the game. Encounters we don't like that we can run into here. We can run into the Pisco Demons. We can run into the Cockatrices. We have Mind Flayers who can, in one shot, paralyze the entire party and have instant death attached to their physical attacks. We have the 1 of 64 White Dragons. The White Dragons can cast Ice Storm, which can wipe out the party. We have Dark Wizards who can cast Faraga and wipe out the party. We have Undead who can Paralock us. The Cavern of Ice is terrifying. We do also have the Ice Wolf, Winter Wolf Ice Gigas encounter. The Winter Wolves also can cast Ice Storm, not as powerful as the White Dragon's version of it, but that encounter also is unrunnable, and a Judgement Staff is not enough to take out the Ice Gigases, so you have to combine the Judgement Staff and physical attacks. Roach getting the Mind Flayers here. Fortunately, they are very easy to run from. It is mostly ambushes from them that we're worried about. Roach getting past the Undead Spike tile. Spike tiles are tiles where you have forced encounters. Starcrawl making up a lot of lost time here, but having to deal with a group of Pisco Demons. And Roach is shortly going to be entering our grind fight. You may notice that we are not healing our thief or warrior at all right now. We are actually okay with them dying. We want them to die right now. And both Roach and Starcrawl getting the Judgement Staff set up correctly. Starcrawl having a little trouble with the Cockatrices. I probably would recommend going ahead and using Judgement Staff at this point. He's leaving the Mage petrified. Okay, yeah, he just realized that. Now, petrification on the warrior or the thief is actually okay. Roach has reached the grind battle. This first round, we're going to defend. We're going to keep on defending until both the warrior and the thief are dead. We got okay luck there. individually attack each of them in the first 2 turns. We prefer the first turn for them to cast Thundara, which will kill everyone but the mages. Now that both of them are dead, we're just going to walk back and forth and repeatedly do this battle until our mages are level 18. Some people do 18 plus 1 battle. At level 19, they'll be able to learn 5th level spells, which we will need to learn Hilara and Teleport. As Portside said, they have overpowered gear because of an equipment glitch. Next time we get to the equipment glitch, I'll try to explain a little bit of how it works. So Starcrawl's taking a safety save here, because sometimes you can get paralocked on an upcoming encounter tile. And you can always get wiped. Alright, so just waiting on the grind battle here. Roach should be getting pretty close to done with it. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and revive everybody. A lot of people only revive the Thief at this point in order to get the Thief a little more experience versus the Warrior, so hopefully he will not require the Giant's tonics at the final battle. He has to grind until the mages are level 18. A lot of people do level 18 plus 1 battle. Then some other force encounters that we have will get us to level 19. And Starcrawl, accidentally defends a 3rd time. Oh no, sorry, he missed the warrior. So he's just waiting. Oh, he is not having a great first fight, this evil eye. Okay, Thundara, that's what we wanted. Alright, now we can kill him, heal up the mages, and do the grind. Roach, however, is out of the Cavern of Ice, so he's feeling very relieved to escape that with no major issues. Starcrawl saving here just in case for some reason the Evil Eye gets an early turn. And cast Thundara again. Roach, now that we got the Levistone from the Ice Cavern, is working way down to the desert to get our airship. Fortunately, this is the only point in the game in which we need to grind. The only reason we need to grind is to learn some spells. Our equipment basically carries us through most of the game. But one very important factor we're going to run into is our hit point pool for our Black Mage and our Thief. You do get random rolls for hit points every level up, and if our Black Mage and Thief do not have sufficiently high hit points in the final battle, we're going to need to take an extra turn to increase their hit point pool using an item called the Giant's Tonic. And Roach is now working his way toward the Citadel of Trials. So the airship in this game is nice, but it's also a little trolly, because almost everywhere you need the airship to access, you end up having to park the airship a long way from where you're going and have a nice long walk. The desert Roach is walking through right here can be frightening. There is a chance of running into an enemy called the Sandworm, which can cast Earthquake, which can one-shot the entire party. Starcrawl is not having a great Cavern of Ice, but hasn't really made any errors. This has been entirely out of his control, but this race is far from over. Roach now in the Citadel of Trials. There are not many unrunnable encounters in here. There's some Minotaur zombies that you can run across that are the most common one, but you do have to worry about a few dangerous encounters, like the Mind Flayers. If you do not know your way through the teleport maze, it is very simple. If there's only one teleporter, use it. If there's more than one, always take the lower one. So the Minotaur zombies are unrunnable, so Roach is choosing to physically attack them. And that is simply because the Judgement Staff was not already ready to go on a Mage. So just, if you got 3 enemies, it's sometimes faster just to physically attack them due to the animation time and menuing time for the Judgement Staff. And Roach coming up on a spike tile with Nightmares. Nightmares are runnable, but it's very difficult to run from them at this point in the game. Later on, we'll have some more equipment making it a little easier. Most of us choose to go ahead and fight them, although Roach got a lucky escape. Most of us choose to fight them just because running is so difficult, and it gives us a little bit of an experience bump. When we defeat the zombie dragons at the end of this dungeon, we want our mages to be level 19. Starcrawl is finally out of that awful Cavern of Ice he had, and working his way toward the Citadel of Trials via the airship. Roach did pick up the healing staff in the Citadel of Trials. That's why we had to do the Nightmare battle twice. The healing staff can be glitched into the Lordly Robes, which will increase the magic power for our mages. Is most important for the White Mage for the final battle. Importantly, though, when you equip the Lordly Robes to the glitch, you actually do not put them on the armor slot, because they do have the regen status effect associated with them, and that means every turn you will have a regen animation. We're also picking up the gauntlets, which can be glitched in the Golden Rod, which will only be used in the final battle to increase the White Mage's healing ability. Picks up the Rat's Tail, which is a story item required. I'm going to fight some dragon zombies, or just one in this case. So our mages should now be level 19, and they just had the level up. That's good. You double check they're 19, because they're not 19, and you can't buy the spell when you arrive in Melman later. It is very frustrating. And Starcrawl letting the airship movie play out for a little while. That's unusual. Roach gets an encounter on the airship. That's always frustrating. And Roach now heading to the Dragon Caves to get his class upgrade. The rat's tail we picked up in the Citadel of Trials is an item you need to give to Bahamut to receive your class upgrade. So instead of a warrior, thief, black mage, and white mage, we will now have a knight, ninja, black wizard, and white wizard. That will allow us to learn more spells, increase our stats, and allow the ninja to equip additional items, making glitching easier. Because once again, we can equip whatever we want that's available through the item glitch, so long as the character initiating the glitch can equip the item we're glitching from. So for instance, the steel gloves can make the Barbarian Sword. You have to be able to equip the steel gloves to initiate the glitch to hand that weapon to another character. All right, Roach coming back in a moment for the second visit. We will visit this village 3 times to pick up the Healara and teleport spells. Teleport works a little differently than Exit does, which the white mage can equip and is in lots of Final Fantasy games. Exit always takes you to the world map. Teleport takes you to the previous floor. If you're on if you're on the top floor of a dungeon or just in a town, not in a shop, teleport will take you to the world map. Importantly, later on in the game, though, in a dungeon, it can take you to the previous floor. There is a forked path in a dungeon coming up, so we will be using it to back up 2 floors at one point. We're also picking up Haste in Elfheim. Haste, as I said earlier, it doubles your speed. Speed affects your... basically, doubling your speed is going to double your damage output on an attack. Because speed works very differently in this game than in the active time battle system that many Final Fantasy players are used to from Final Fantasy 4 onward. So here in Mount Gold, going after Merilith, our runners are going to be walking... Oh no, we got almost another paralock on Starcrawl. Okay, escapes the Mind Flayers. In Mount Gold, we're going to be walking as much as possible on the lava tiles. Why do we do that when it hurts us? Well, first of all, it doesn't hurt us that badly. It can't kill us, but you cannot get an encounter on the lava tiles. It also keeps your threat meter from building. So we're going to walk in tiles as much as possible. Usually right here on the 4th floor, runners will choose to heal because our runners are at 1 hit point. And a ambush from Hellhounds can get a blaze attack that can wipe out the party. Roach is going for it, though. He's going to choose right here before the heal right before the last lava tile, giving ethers to our mages, and then using a potion. Most people, if they're using ethers and the mages there, would go ahead and use the Healara spell from the white mage for healing. The rare fire elemental encounter. I believe this is a 1 in 32 encounter in a dungeon with a low encounter rate. So very unusual. It is an unrunnable battle. And now Roach has reached Merilith. Fairly easy boss fight. One of the lower hit point pools of the 4 fiends, but can cast the Fire spell. So if you're not healed up, she can one-shot the party. Starcrawl, going to visit Bahamut to pick up that class upgrade. Making up some time here. His walk back from the Citadel of Trials went fairly well. Both players in cutscenes. That's very rare for a game with so few cutscenes. So we'll see if Starcrawl chooses to go get the spells now, or to get the fairies bottle. Looks like he's going to get. Looks like he's going for spells. Meanwhile, Roach is going to get the fairies bottle now. The desert caravan, kind of a trolly hidden area, has the fairies bottle, which will allow us to get an item we need to breathe underwater. So, get the fairies bottle. Also picked up 11 giant tonics. We only need 2, but it's faster to get 11 than 2. So we don't have money issues. So now Roach is visiting Gaia, releasing the fairy, and is going to be going to visit the fairy to get the Oxy Ale, an item that allows us to breathe underwater. In my real life, I am a scuba instructor, and I can confirm that special oxygen-enriched ale is how we breathe underwater. Right, Roach is teleporting out, our first use of teleport. Starcrawl getting an unlucky encounter in the Mount Golg. Sometimes you'll get a 0 encounter Mount Golg, sometimes it'll just troll you. I was doing a practice run the other day. I had more encounters of Mount Golg than I did in the Cavern of Ice. So Roach is coming to visit this mermaid next to a barrel, and been asked to go save the mermaids and given access to the barrel to go into the sunken shrine. So we're going to go down to where the mermaids are and promptly not rescue them. Starcrawl with the red dragon. Good thing Starcrawl decided to heal earlier, otherwise that would have wiped him. The Sunken Shrine does have a lot of unrunnable encounters. Any encounter with air elementals, unless they're paired with a water naga. Any encounter with ghosts, Sahuagin princes. And they are all fairly common encounters, as well as having a high number of them. Sahuagin prince counter right here. So to save menuing time, Roach choosing to use the Judgement Staff instead of the gauntlets to go after Sahuagin. A passion for jaywalking. This game, story-wise and you know what you do in it wise is very similar to the original Final Fantasy 1. There's some extra bonus dungeons, but the game itself is an entirely different build, and the glitches and encounter systems are entirely different. Also, it does have magic point pools instead of the you know, almost D&D like number of uses for each spell system. Roach has picked up the Rosetta Stone at the very top of the Sunken Shrine. He's got to teleport twice to go to where the path split, and hit at the bottom of the Sunken Shrine to fight Kraken, the Fiend of Water. The way the equipment glitch works is every weapon in the game basically has a number on it assigned to a table. Every piece of armor in the game also has a number on assigned to a table. If you are on one character's weapon slot and you select their weapon menu while paging over to the armor menu on another character or vice versa, it will bring up basically the numbers associated with the weapons available to you, but then in the armor list. So say that the Barbarian Sword, we're just going to pretend it's item number 3 in the weapon list. And in the armor list, the steel gloves might be item number 3. So if you have a character, if you have a set of steel gloves, if you try to equip gloves on a character while paging to another character's weapon slot, it will actually bring up item number 3, which would be the Barbarian Sword. It will also allow us to equip items on characters who usually can't get them in slots they're usually not allowed to have them. So it is a very, very, very useful glitch. Alright. Roach's been getting a lot of unrunnables here. This is potentially a chance for Starcrawl to make up some time. Roach picking up the Light Axe to get one of our more complicated menus of the game. We're going to be glitching the Light Axe into the Survival Vest. The Survival Vest is going to be our final armor we equip most of our characters. It will increase our speed and make running much easier and turn order come faster. On the White Mage, we're actually going to be equipping some Lordly Robes to increase her magic power. That will both allow her to heal for more hit points and will allow her to do more damage with the Judgement Staff in the final dungeon. She does... It looks like Roach is actually choosing to put the Survival Vest to bank all the money on running more easily. This game is not really considered very difficult, but this item glitching allows us to continue through the game very quickly without having to grind at any point and do things slightly out of order, and defeat enemies faster and run from them more easily. Also, we were going to be extremely underleveled on the final boss, and the final boss is a very difficult fight. Most bosses in this game are actually fairly easy, but Chaos actually had a big hit point bump. I believe he has 20,000 hit points in this version of the game, and if you do not defeat him quickly enough, he will cast Curaja on himself, which will heal him by 9999 hit points, and we want to avoid that. Starcrawl getting the Thundara from the Water Naga. I think all of us who have run the game a lot at some point have forgotten that that's a possibility and been wiped by that battle. So Starcrawl has definitely made up some time here. Roach is having a very rough Sunken Shrine. The timers are useful as indicators of how well the runs are going overall. Roach is actually making fairly good time at this point. The timer is also very useful if we have stream delays between the runners. It lets us know where they actually are sitting. When runner starts losing frames and ends up behind, we can still see on their timer, because the timers are coming from the runner streams. They're not being generated by the restreamer. As we saw, Kraken was a very easy battle. In the vanilla game, or the glitchless categories, Kraken is probably the most dangerous of the four fiends because he can hit 8 times. But since we are virtually immune to physical damage, and his spells aren't much to speak of, Kraken is by far the easiest of the four fiends in this version, in this glitch category. So now Roach's going to be working his way to the Waterfall Cave. The Waterfall Cave has the highest encounter rate in the game, I believe, that in the Mirage Tower. And on the way, he does run to the Ice Giga's Winter Wolf, which is an unrunnable encounter. So I see Roach was managed to run from the Nightmare fairly easily there. Early in the game, it was a much more difficult proposition. There is a rare Green Dragon encounter in this dungeon. It is a, I believe, a 1 in 64 chance encounter, but we see it more often than lots of the other rare encounters just because there are so many encounters in this cave. There also are Pyralists, which can have a one-shot kill ability. And there are cockatrices, which once again can petrify you. So that's our RPG Jerkbird for Final Fantasy I. Roach is just getting a lot of nightmares. So Starcrawl, not realizing that you need to pick up that item from the right side because there are spike tiles on the left and bottom side of that chest. So Roach is coming up in just a moment on a spike tile that can potentially be dangerous. So he's going to go ahead and save. You can have lots of Pyralists or cockatrices here, and there's a chance of getting wiped here. A lot of Pyralists here. If it had been an ambush, that would have been very, very scary. So he went ahead and got the ribbon, and now immune to instant death once he does this glitch. This glitch is a little different than the others we've been doing. So the ribbon is a helmet that's that can be glitched into an item called the Light Axe. He's trying to do off the shield slot, which is why he's having some frustration right now. But the ribbon, there he goes. He caught on. He can change that into the Gigant Axe. Then the Gigant Axe can be made into ribbons. That's how we do item duplication in this game. The ribbon will make us immune to status effects and also gives us some magic defense, which will be required for the final battle. And also doing the Lordly Robe menuing at this point. So that ends up being one of the more complicated menus of the game. Starcrawl have a little bad luck here with the Sea Scorpions and the Sea Snakes. Gonna go ahead and Judgment Staff them, and then you take care of them. Oh no, okay, managed to run. Going to use an antidote here. Alright. So Roach got a little lost flying there. Needs to go to the village of Melman for the final time to learn to speak Luthinian. He needs to go left and down. There we go. Dr. Une, however you pronounce it, here is going to be see the Rosetta Stone we picked up in the Sunken Shrine, and know that he can use that to teach us Lufenian. As somebody who's taken linguistic anthropology courses, I do wish I could learn a language in just a few seconds. I like to say that Lufenian must just be the Final Fantasy equivalent of Pig Latin. Let's learn it that quickly. So now Roach is going to be doing a long, annoying walk to get to Lufenia. There's one tile you can land on this side of the continent. And there are a lot of encounters in here because most of the forest. And there's lots of encounters with Minotaur zombies that are unrunnable, and potentially winter wolves, which are fast and can cast Ice Storm, which has a long animation and can be painful. So Roach is choosing to keep all the characters on attack like they were for the Kraken battle, and just attack all the Minotaur zombies they run across. Earlier in the game, if they had picked up the leather shield, they could have made the Mage Staff out of it, which casts Fyra, which is enough to kill them very quickly. It's much faster animation than the Judgement Staff. Starcrawl getting out of the Sunken Shrine and working his way to the Waterfall Cave. And Roach getting trolled by the NPC here. Okay, the NPC can go down or left, either way works here. Okay, there we go. Oh, another one. We love Lufenian NPCs. Roach is pretty far ahead at this point. But depending on our RNG with random encounters, it is definitely not over for Starcrawl, although there is a fairly significant lead for Roach at this point. Starcrawl is behind by basically the entirety of the Waterfall Cave, and he still needs to visit Melman to learn Lufenian and make the walk to Lufenia. Starcrawl is just getting wrecked by a lot of this RNG. Roach having to deal with some winter wolves here. Got one Ice Storm cast on him, 2 Ice Storms. Fortunately, the Winter Wolf Ice Storm is not nearly as powerful as the Ice Storm you get from a White Dragon. That'll do 60 or 70 damage per character, but it still can eat up a lot of time. All right, Roach is now entering the Mirage Tower. Mirage Tower's second floor has a very, very, very high encounter rate. If you watch the previous run, it was comically high. Yes, that was a block animation with the sword. So this is a good time to mention that. For the most of the game, we've been leaving our shield slot empty, because most items, when glitch the shield slot, if you do a parry animation, do not have a associated animation tied to them if they do a block, and can soft lock the game. But the ribbon, for some reason, will do an animation of a sword block. So we can equip the ribbon there. We also can equip the Lordly Robes or the Survival Vest there. You can also do the Feather Hat, but we don't use the Feather Hat. I think there's a few others as well. But the items that we use in the game, you can equip the Survival Vest, the lordly robes or the ribbon there safely. It works out well for us. Roach fighting the Spike Tile Blue Dragon, and about to use the Warp Cube we picked up from the robot in the Waterfall Cavern to get to the Flying Fortress. The Flying Fortress only has one unrunnable encounter, and that is the Evil Eye. Same one we fought in the grind fight earlier. Meanwhile, Starcrawl is learning Lufinian. And Roach is approaching a room that both has Tiamat and potential big hype. There's a very rare encounter usually coming up. In my hundreds of runs, I've seen it one time. And air elementals. There we go. If we do run across the rare encounter, which is Warmech, as Chad is saying, we actually do like to fight it because Warmech has a lot of experience associated with it. It's a fairly quick fight. It does have the risk of casting Flare, but especially with the Barbarian Sword route that Roach is taking, it's a fairly safe fight. And fortunately, Roach did heal because Tiamat did cast Thunderbolt. If you forget to heal for this fight, that can wipe your party. Lots of us have forgotten to do that at one point or another. Starcrawl also getting trolled by the NPC in Lufenia, but not nearly as badly as Roach was. So Starcrawl now has a chime that will allow him to enter Mirage Tower. So Roach is now on the way to the final dungeon. So at this point in the stream, we'd like you to start naming chest number to see where the big... Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong game. So you see this little cutscene played out there telling you to go to the right and up. That is not what you want to do. You do that if you want to go to a super dungeon. That is not where we need to go to finish the game. We will not be doing that dungeon. Instead, we will be going to the Chaos Shrine. The Chaos Shrine is a great equalizer. There are lots of unrunnables. There are encounters here that can wipe you. There are even more unrunnables. You can have a very good Chaos Shrine. You can have a very bad Chaos Shrine. We're just going to see how it goes here for Roach. Oh, an ambush from White Dragon. This is very dangerous. He went ahead and took a reset. White Dragons can wipe your party. It's a good thing he saved there. An ambush from them, 4 Ice Storms, can be very, very, very bad. So just went ahead and took the reset. He was right there. No harm in it. And Roach gets a Black Knight ambush. It's not a dangerous ambush. It is a runnable encounter, but he has to wait for 9 attacks before starting his run. We do have a category where we will complete that dungeon. Is the all bosses category. It does require us to visit all 5 of the extra content dungeons, one of which we have to go through 3 times. 4 times, actually, maybe. I'm trying to remember. I haven't done it in so long. But there are bosses that you have to choose at the end of the dungeon. The bosses in those dungeons, interestingly, though, are from other Final Fantasy games. So if you want to fight the Phantom Train, or you want to fight Siegfried while playing Final Fantasy V's Battle on the Bridge for some hype music, you can do that in this game. So the White Mage has to be the one to use the Judgement Staff in this battle. Otherwise, the Ice Kickers will not go down to the Judgement Staff, most likely. The White Mage has the Lordly Robes equipped, giving her higher intelligence and a little extra punch on that Judgment Staff. Roach is actually having a fairly good Chaos Shrine at this point right now. Having to fight Earth Elementals, this is an unrunnable battle. But most of the Earth floor, the worst section of the Earth floor, he's already gotten past, and he got to the previous floor fairly unscathed. But still has Lich 2 coming up. They were taking our little Mega Man cues here. We have to go through and do refights against all the 4 fiends. They are beefed up, and Lich, just like before, the first time we fought him, is the most dangerous of the 4 fiends, has a chance to cast Flare. So we're going to go ahead and save here. Meanwhile, Starcrawl is on the Tiamat fight. So what Roach is doing here, most people will cast haste on the thief. I actually like what Roach is doing here, casting it on the knight. The knight has a higher chance of going after the black mage, so that haste can be used effectively on the first turn. The fire floor typically is the easiest of the 4 fiend floors. It only has 1 unrunnable encounter, and it is rare. Now, Merilith, once again, a fairly easy battle. Looks like it's going to require 2 turns. And now Roach is on the water floor. This floor can be awful sometimes. If you get a whole lot of water elementals, you can lose a lot of time here. So far, so good for Roach. And there's that little bit of a curse I just gave him there. I'll go ahead and give myself credit for that. And Starcrawl is entering the Chaos Shrine. And Roach gets an ambush, but it is a runnable encounter, so shouldn't be too terrible. Roach taking a safety save before Kraken. Not very real common people do that. Kraken is still fairly harmless. See, right there, if the Black Mage had cast haste on the ninja instead, it would not have taken effect that first turn. So that is actually an interesting strategy I might borrow for these battles. Starcrawl dealing with some purple worms. Purple worms are also unrunnable. And Roach is at the Tiamat fight. This is the first battle in the game, first boss battle in the game, that cannot be completed in one round. In any strategy that I'm aware of, with the levels we were at. And Starcrawl takes a death. When was his last save? Okay, right at the beginning of the Chaos Shrine. That's good. So Starcrawl working way down to the Death Eye. Roach is approaching Chaos. Gonna go ahead and heal up, do the final equipment glitch of the game. We're gonna be giving the White Mage the Golden Rod. We're going to be making sure she has no speed enhancing abilities. We want her to go last every turn. We're probably going to be giving the Black Mage the Barbarian Sword. Alright, and Roach is into the final battle. First turn, we're going to be looking at our hit point pools for our characters. He's been getting some pretty bad lows, so I think he is going to be needing those Giant's Tonics. Definitely on the Ninja, and on the Black Mage I would use one as well. Giant's Tonic will, for the duration of one battle, increase your hit points pool by 200. Meanwhile, the Black Mage, each turn is going to be casting haste on a character for the first 3 turns. Looks like first on the warrior for him, then he's going to do it on the ninja, then on himself. Afterwards, he'll be attacking. The White Mage will be healing every turn, and starting the second turn, your warrior and your ninja will be attacking every turn. And Chaos starting off with a getting his blaze off. Is he going to do a full magic cycle? That's the question. Because a full magic cycle, even with the best laid plans, you can still take some deaths. Blaze is the weakest, rather one of the weaker of his spells he can use. We're worried about Tsunami and Whirlwind. And here Tsunami is very powerful and it's got a long animation. And Tsunami and Whirlwind both can do more damage than the White Mage can heal, potentially. So those characters are no longer at full hit points. He follows up with this Whirlwind. It could be scary, and he did not, so we should be good. Our biggest threat at this point is going to be critical physical attacks to the white mage. We cut it really close there. And here comes a whirlwind. The white mage is down. Oh, yes, I hope he wins in this round. He's going for it. And game. Roach does take the victory. And a very narrow victory over Chaos there. That was almost very, very bad. One turn earlier, that would have ended his game. And with a time of 132.58, Roach has an excellent time. I do believe that is the current record for this tournament. To double check on that. Oh, I'm incorrect. Boxmeister had a 131.48. That's still going to take second place, though, for best race time, so it's a very, very good time. All right. Good luck, Roach. I invite you in for an interview here, but it sounds like you're doing a real interview. So good luck with that. And meanwhile, Starcrawl is working its way through the earth floor of the Chaos Shrine. A lot of earth elementals, and let's see how things go at Lich. Starcrawl is playing a fantastic game. He just got some very bad luck with the RNG here. I made some major executions in my run earlier, and it still would have looks like it may have done a little better than Starcrawl's going to end up with here, and it's not Starcrawl's fault at all. It's just sometimes the game doesn't give you the run. Really gives off the Faraga, but that shouldn't be a real threat to our party. Alrighty, so far so good on the water floor. I shouldn't have said that. That's bad for Starcrawl if I say that. little trouble with the Kraken with that spell cast, just takes a little time, but once again, no real threat from Kraken. Les gets a bad encounter here, probably going to go in with full hit points to the Tiamat fight. Yeah, Roach, we understand. You had some time, you wanted to look around and see what the water looked like. It was nice. Getting lost on the airship is something that most of us do. It's embarrassing every time, because you can get lost in the middle of the water, and it can take you a minute to figure out exactly where you are in the world. Alright, and Starcrawl is through Tiamat 2. So done with all random encounters, gonna do the final menu and take on Chaos. Everybody get hyped for Chaos. So the reason Starcrawl put clothes on the White Mage there was simply because it's quicker than unequipping the slot, and we do not want the Lordly Robes there because we do not want the region animation, and we want no items on there that speed her up. We want her to go after Chaos every turn. We want Chaos to do his damage, and have the Mage immediately heal it. And looks like Starcrawl went a little risky with the Giant's Tonic there, not using it first turn. And Black Mage takes a death because of it. So let's see how he adapts here. He's just going to YOLO it. That might be the way to go. He's already got both his heavy hitters hasted, so if it might be painful not having the extra damage from the Black Mage the last few rounds, but he should be able to beat the Kiraja doing this. The biggest threat at this point is going to be either a tsunami or a whirlwind also taking out the ninja. Although if he keeps attacking the knight, we're going to be just fine with that. The attack does not do much damage to the knight, and the animation is fast. and good game, Starcrawl. Starcrawl, don't forget to go .done in the race channel. There you go. Good game, good game. Give me a second, see if Starcrawl wants to come in here for an interview. Roach had an SRL time of, give me a second, 1:32:58. It's a very, very good time. And give us a minute to get Starcrawl in here. All right, Starcrawl's having a little trouble getting into the voice channel. Alrighty, we're trying to get Starcrawl in. And I shared the Link to the Past race. The one that's starting up in just a minute should be on Speed Gaming 3, according to the calendar. And we're trying to get Starcrawl in here for an interview. Just bear with us just a minute. All right, we may not be able to get Starcrawl in here, but that being the case, we're going to go ahead and let the channel go back to hosting some of the other races. But before we get going, I want to say everybody needs to follow Starcrawl and Roach. They both put on a great show for us. They work really hard on this game. Go ahead and follow and subscribe to some of the speed gaming channels. Help support Feasel and those who help put this these channels on together for us. We want to thank them so much for allowing us to do this, giving the game and our runners who work so hard an audience. Speed Gaming is a wonderful channel, and it's a great place to catch all kinds of wonderful games, get exposed to new stuff. If you're interested in learning the route, you can come find us on the Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Discord. We have a lot of fun there. It's a very easy run to learn and a great community. And so, all that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Have yourselves a wonderful day. And we're going to be having some more races throughout the season. These group races, then the double elimination race. And so be sure to come back to Speed Gaming to catch some more Final Fantasy 1 tournaments. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
It's me, Mario!